Overpopulation is when the human population is exceeding the Earth's carrying capacity. Since the beginning of the creation of the world, our birth rates and death rates have been able to maintain a population that is sustainable. People back then suffered from illnesses and wars which decreased their population rate. Examples of events that decreased the human population in Santa Barbara back then were in 1925, a 6.8 earthquake struck, damaging a lot of structures in Santa Barbara and taking several lives. In 1969, 3 million gallons of crude oil spilled in the ocean, creating an oil slick 35 miles along the coast and killing many sea creatures. And not only did this affect ocean ecosystems, but it affected the fisheries and the people's way of living. The number of birth rates and reduced mortality rates have both increased and are shown to continue to intensify in our further generations.
Can you imagine how many people will be living in the U.S. 40 years from now? Our population will increase to about 404 million people. Have you thought about the major effects this can cause on our local community? There was less than 100,000 people living in Santa Barbara in the 1940s. However, this number has changed because the population is now about 440,000 people. We can predict this number to increase dramatically in the near future to 520,000 people.
Overpopulation is caused by individuals seeking better job opportunities, higher education, and local activities. This can increase our human population due to advancements in technology. Every year, humans have found ways to cure diseases and save lives, which ultimately leads to an increase in human lifespan and human population. This is good in a way because we want to live longer, but this could also harm and affect our environment.
One of the things that we spend a lot of time thinking about is how people shape the abundance of the environment, both in how the human population is growing, where it's growing, and how people are using energy and resources in the places where populations are growing.
One effect of overpopulation is the limitation on natural resources. The more people that there are, the greater amount of natural resources that are needed to sustain an individual. For example, the land space that is used for trees and other organisms is going to decrease. We are cutting down trees for wood and using them for paper making, house building, furniture, diapers, and several other day-to-day necessities. Which is good for us because we will get the furniture that we want, our nice homes, paper for our homework, and other activities, but this means that we humans are decreasing our own oxygen supply.
In addition, the living standards create greater demands on the resources we need to survive, such as water, food, and shelter. This creates stress in our environment since the number of people needing them are increasing, which ultimately decreases our life expectancy.
That means that people in these places need a lot more things, so they deserve more things. They need more energy, so there's more demand on things like for use for firewood and making charcoal. There's more demand on water.
Water being the most important natural resource to survive, only about 1% of fresh water is left for humans, as more pollutants and the use of non-degradable products are being washed away into rivers and streams. 40% of our water resources in our country are already polluted, meaning they are unsafe for fishing and for aquatic animals living there.
Energy is a big contribution to the effects that overpopulation has on our environment. We use energy for many things like electricity, cooking, heating, and for transportation. The United States uses 20% of the world's energy, and it may not seem like a lot. We are 5% of the world's population, so of that 5%, we consume a decent amount of the world's energy. We can project this to increase over time as more people are increasing the use of energy. One of the ways energy is made is through burning fossil fuels. This process releases gas into the atmosphere such as CO2, which is a key factor of global warming.
Which energy you use, or what you want, or what you need is changing really rapidly. So it's not, I'm thinking about how the environment changes.
85% of our energy comes from the fossil fuels. If this number were to increase because of the number of people using more energy, this will lead to more wells, pipelines, and factories that are needed for production of fuels. Meaning that forests and other whole mountaintops are going to be scraped off just to be able to sustain the amount of energy needed for the population. Extreme development of fuels such as coal can put our entire freshwater or ocean ecosystem in jeopardy.
through an oil spill or leaks during extraction.
When we burn these oils, coal, and gases, we are not only meeting our energy need, but we are driving the global warming. Eventually, this leads to a rise in temperature and creating our climate to become warmer, affecting all ecosystems.
Another major effect of overpopulation is that it is causing a loss of habitats, which affects the biodiversity of species, and in the long run will affect us on the food supply that is provided. The more people there are on land, the more natural habitats that are converted into human needs like homes, factories, and other businesses. Many of the natural habitats of species are being converted into farmlands needed for food production. As a result of the habitats being destroyed, many different species will become extinct. For example, many homes have been built on the Santa Barbara Mountains and where many different species have lived on, such as bobcats and mountain lions. They have needed to adapt to the new environmental changes. According to an article from Los Angeles Times, urbanization has become a threat for 66% of endangered species in California. In addition, there has been reports in Santa Barbara claiming that certain wild animals have gone far enough to enter into families' households, showing that these animals have not been able to adapt to the new change in their habitats.
A limitation of overpopulation is that there isn't just a simple way to stop overpopulation. We can't just tell somebody to not have kids.
Stop! You can't have more kids!
Yes, I can.
Instead, we can educate individuals about this problem. Although we can't limit the number of kids people are having, we can educate others about access to contraceptives and overall counseling to responsibly plan for their future families.
I would say that it's a really important way to empower families.
We can educate the young and try to implement good habits for our future generations, such as educating them on how, as a community, we can protect our environment from future needs and conserve our natural resources, such as energy. We can help maintain our Earth by being attentive on how we are using our resources and making sure we are rationalizing and only using what we need. By doing this, we could help maintain a stable environment even when the population is growing.
There are many ways in which people are helping our environment, like recycling and reducing the amount of plastic we use. But not everyone is recycling. In the US, the recycling rate has dropped from 9.1% to 2.9%. Some ways we can help reduce the amount of plastic use affecting our environment is by advocating for reverse vending machines in beverage and retail companies. For example, more grocery stores should use glass containers for milk and juice instead of plastic and have clients return these containers for other uses instead of just throwing them away.
Some other solutions are planting trees after cutting one, even in your own garden, or not using our natural resources for things that are simply not needed, like making scent cleaning products. Planting trees is important because as the number of individuals in our community increase, the more oxygen is needed from the trees. This will allow us to have a sustainable development from our environment. However, a limitation may be that urbanization may get in the way because it takes up a large portion of land that we can be using to plant trees. Big businesses should dedicate an hour or two to help generate energy back to the building instead of wasting it. For example, gyms should have bikes or treadmills that give energy back through exercise. Installing solar panels and being cautious of the energy we use on a daily basis would be a great solution for populations that are growing drastically. A limitation would be that businesses may not have enough funds to buy these energy systems. In order to maintain our fresh water, we need to be aware of the pollutants that we're putting into the atmosphere. Since overpopulation will cause a great amount of pollutants to be released in the air, this will decrease the amount of pollution within our environment, as well as our water systems that we need on a day-to-day basis. A limitation could include that everyone makes their own decisions, but we can continue to educate.